Hey everyone, welcome back to the Showboys podcast. I'm Pixel Nick, and joined with me tonight is nasally
Yeah.
Chadwick the Third.
Yeah.
He's
More
struggling
nasally than normal.
more nasally than normal. He's struggling through some allergies, as I'm sure everyone is to some degree this time of year.
Yep.
But we have a good show tonight. We're gonna be talking about Assassin's Creed Origins. It's kind of like a throwback Thursday. We're kind of cheating on that because we're live every Thursday. So
Yeah.
all we have to do is every Thursday just throw it back, and
Throw
we
it
like
back,
talking
man.
about old stuff around here. But before we get too far along, gotta shout out our top tier patrons, and that would be Young Joe Cross, Yusuf H, and Old Bimbo. We like them, and all our other lovely patrons. We do have a Patreon, so do head over there, sign up. We also have a website, showboysmedia.com. Pop over there and see everything Showboys all in one spot. And speaking of Joe Cross, here he is. He says, I don't know what I'm watching, but I'm watching it. Well, Joe, you're watching the Showboys podcast. And we're back with our second in a row What's Playing after a huge hiatus, I feel like, from What's Playing's.
Yeah,
They
it's
they
been a
really
while.
they really got stiff armed because of Game of Thrones and then like a bunch of other shows that were rolling out. And I looked back at the backlog and I was like, wow, it's been a while since we've had, you know, back to back What's Playing, let alone a What's
Yeah.
Playing period.
Right. Yeah. It feels like it's been forever since I just did a normal what's anything besides besides Game of Thrones. I'm sure
What's
that there
Game
was
of
something in
Thrones?
there that I was on, like on the off week, but it feels like I've been missing quite a few. So
It's tricky because in the off weeks, we had our 100th episode. That was a good one. But then
yeah.
The Boys, you weren't on that. Stranger Things, you weren't on that.
Yeah.
Um, there was just a general What's Playing back in June 30th. We did video game adaptations.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the topic tonight came up because they've adapted it into a movie.
Which I watched in preparation for this episode.
Good, 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 good.
Don't hate it. Not gonna lie, don't hate it.
Don't hate
Maybe
it.
maybe like diehard Assassin's Creed fans might despise it, but I gotta be honest. I know nothing from Origins back. Like I played the first
Okay.
game way back, but outside of that, nothing.
I was totally gonna. I wanted to ask you that because I was like, I'm pretty sure you haven't played much, if anything at all. So, did want to lay the groundwork for this conversation this evening in terms of what you've played, what I've played. And the great thing about quote unquote diehard Assassin's Creed fans is I don't think they really exist. I've never really come across an Assassin's Creed player that's like a stickler for like lore or like how they do things. It's really just to me, it's a game about enjoyment, and it's either like you enjoy the installment or you don't enjoy that installment and you just move on and wait for the next one because they've been consistently pumping these out for like 15
Oh yeah,
years.
yeah. I think there's a pretty decent amount of people that are like true to Assassin's Creed's roots with the order and all that stuff, the
Yeah.
assassins. And as you get into these open world style RPG style Assassin's Creed, that falls off quite a bit, especially in Odyssey. I heard I haven't been that far into Odyssey. We'll get to that eventually because I got a lot to say about the fucking game. But yeah, I think there are a lot of people that want the game to go back somewhat
Yeah.
to what it was in the first couple of entries. But I gotta be honest. I know I talk a lot of shit about Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft on this show. I loved Origins, and I was
So glad
really
you did.
obviously very clearly I dug Valhalla because I put like 97 hours into it.
Whoa.
So still didn't finish it either, by the way. So that's how long that game is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just such a mixed bag with the Assassin's Creed franchise in terms of like what people want more of, what people hate.
Yeah.
Like for example, there's a lot of people that do pine for the old style because they've moved so far away from it at this point.
Yeah, they
Because
have.
like now the comment I read earlier rings so true because it's like the 200-hour open world. It's kind of like really killing me, and Origins isn't that big, but Valhalla and Odyssey are much bigger, and they've
Yeah.
gone too far that way. But I've been seeing people talk about like a hybrid of the two ends of the spectrum here, because I think that might be the sweet spot somewhere in
I
here.
think that we may get that.
Yeah.
If not with the new one they announced today, which is supposed to be a smaller experience, maybe akin to the original, 5 games, however many games there are. I know there's a lot of them.
Yes.
But Assassin's Creed Infinity, which the rumors are it's going to be like a Fortnite style, ever evolving. It's going to be like a platform. They're just going to dump stuff onto it. Different stories, different, which I think is awesome. As long as they start in Japan, then whatever you do, whatever you want outside of that. So I think that from the look of it, at least, it seems like Mirage, which is the one they announced today, is going to be the classic Assassin's Creed formula. And then Infinity, which is what it's coined, I don't know if that's really what it's going to be called, is going to be the more RPG, but toned down a little bit into smaller stories, just multiple different storylines.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fine if they just did, I think, that open platform with like Infinity, even if like Mirage is like a stepping stone to that, because yeah, giant open world RPG is wonderful, but like Assassin's Creed players, like, we dig a 10 to 20 hour campaign that's like linear, and it's just all about like stealth, basically like ancient Ghost Recon stuff.
Yeah.
That's all people really look for.
Yeah, I think that with Origins specifically, they really learned a lot from or I don't want to say stole a lot from The Witcher, but you could tell there's influences from The Witcher 3 in Origins. Just in the style of gameplay, the style of side quests and the world building and everything going on in the world. It's very, you have, like I said, there's some side quests in Origins that are better than anything in the main story. And The Witcher has a lot of those too. So I think that was a natural progression for them to go. And then they, did whatever the fuck they did with Odyssey, which is just a travesty. If you ask me, I think it's like literally one of the worst. When I'm talking crap about Assassin's Creed, it's primarily Odyssey. And now, especially that I've played Origins and Valhalla, like those two games blow Odyssey out of the water as far as I'm concerned. So it's like they did awesome with Origins, just a train wreck, cool world, train wreck of a game with Odyssey. And then Valhalla goes back to a lot of the stuff that I think makes Origins really good. So they're going in the right direction versus whatever happened with Odyssey, And I know a lot of people disagree with me. I know a lot of people love Odyssey. I'm not one of them, though.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot wrong.
I think it's great that you have only played the kind of what is called like the antiquity Assassin's Creeds, like this kind of period in time. So I like that you've experienced that. I've played. It's always a mixed bag of like Assassin's Creed. Like either you play them all, you've played some, or you've played none.
Right.
And obviously that's like every option there is. But I played the first one up till 3. That takes place in like Native America.
Revolutionary War. Yeah.
So, and I was in college, and it fell off for me. Like I just never finished it, and then I bounced like in and out. I never played Black Flag, which is
shoot. You know what? I did play Black Flag. I don't know that I ever beat Black Flag, but I definitely played a decent amount of Black Flag. So that's another one that.
Yeah, I really want them to remaster it or whatever, and then I'll play it. I'm just afraid like I'll buy it, and then they will like a month later say, "Hey, we're re-releasing it."
That wouldn't shock me. I thought that it got a remaster, but I thought
it's the only one that hasn't.
Is it? Okay. Because I knew they re-released it, because I think originally it was like one of those weird games that was like right on the cusp of the PS3 and the PS4. So I think they released it on both consoles. But yeah, I would like to go back and play it. At this point, I might as well wait for Skull and Bones or whatever it's called, because that's like a natural birthing of that game from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I mean, they wanted if you look at the gameplay, it looks like, pretty similar. I don't know that it's going to have the depth that an Assassin's Creed game normally has, but it looks good. We'll see when it comes out, but it's like, I think next year, so I might as well just wait for the new fancy pirate game,
Yeah, and then so I have Origins, played a lot of it, and I have Odyssey. So I haven't gotten Valhalla just because I know there's no way I'm going to crack that egg when I still have yet to really 100% Origins. That's like a goal of mine, is 200% that, because that is a game I am able to go back to over
Yeah,
time and like
yeah,
enjoy as much.
yeah.
Odyssey, I have to get back into it, but oh, this is where I was going with this. If you look up like the best Assassin's Creed games, if you find the rankings, there's none that are the same.
Oh yeah,
No one can agree
I
on
bet.
like
Yeah,
no website, at least, right? That like ranks them for whatever reason. There are none that are the same. You have Black Flag. Like occasionally you'll have like Black Flag as number one for multiples, but
yeah.
then tons cite Assassin's Creed 2 and that the Ezio trilogy up to Brotherhood, which I loved a ton. Like
That
really,
those seem to be the
really
most
good.
popular, and I
It was
have to
like peak
see.
Assassin's Creed. That was like the pinnacle
Yeah, I
for
have to see
sure.
because I'm pretty sure they did remaster those in some capacity and
Yeah,
re-release them
it's
on
the Ezio
PS4.
collection.
So the
Hmm.
Ezio collection. I'd love to go back and play those. It's weird because are those games, because Black Flag, from what I remember, is open world, correct?
Yeah, I haven't played
From
that
what
one, but by the sounds of it, it's pretty open world in terms of like seamless transitions. But I think the difference is like the mechanics of the game.
the
Combat
RPG
changed.
stuff. Yeah,
The
yeah,
RPGs, how you progress your gear, like loot based
right.
gear system, things like that, is what main changed about it.
Yeah, I
The other ones are
like.
really big. Like
Yeah,
Assassin's
that's
Creed 2 was full city map, so like
right.
there it was very much like Grand Theft Auto style, right? You have your
I
whole
think I
city
watched.
as your
Yeah,
sandbox.
yeah, I watched my brother-in-law, I think, play too, quite a bit when we were younger. But yeah, I just need to go back and play those because those seem to be, at least Ezio seems to be everyone's favorite character. So I
Yeah.
assume that his games are obviously good if he's up there in the characters. But yeah, I played the first one way back in the day. It was
Mhm.
revolutionary back then. I mean, we had
Yeah.
nothing even close to it. It was the first game
So
to
much
implement
fun.
like a cool parkour system in a game. So, and Assassin's Creed, I think, has really lost the parkour feeling of the first couple
Mhm.
games, especially Black Flag felt great. Origins is okay. There's just not a lot. There's not a whole
It's
lot to
just all
parkour around
climbing.
on. Yeah.
It's linear climbing and just like kind of like shuffling mostly.
Right.
Whereas like the older
Right.
ones, because they were linear platformers more or less, they could build the elements where like this is where you run on the wall, this is where you leap off the wall and like kill someone.
Yeah.
You lose some of that.
I was watching a review of Syndicate maybe,
Hmm.
and they have some freaking awesome parkour animations in that, like especially
Yeah.
like climbing down stuff. He's like doing flips and stuff. So yeah, they lost that a bit. I mean, I know that a lot of people feel with everything that they took out from the original trip, like there's really not a whole lot to do with the assassins in Valhalla. Not anything of substantial. Like they're there. It outside of Odyssey, like Odyssey, I think doesn't have anything to do with those. And we'll get to the Origins Odyssey thing because, like I said, I have a lot to say between those two games.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention that Odyssey doesn't even make sense that it even exists in the universe. But so yeah, I think Valhalla went in the better direction than Odyssey. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. I think Valhalla is vastly superior. But Origins, out of these three, hands down the best gameplay, the best world, the best side quests. Valhalla doesn't even have side quests. So they totally stripped the side quests out of Valhalla.
Oh, that's
So
bizarre.
yeah, it's really odd. I mean, they have like events in the towns that are kind of somewhat, like soulless side quests, but
Yeah.
nothing like Origins, obviously. And I think Odyssey has a decent amount of really good side quests from what I hear. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing is because sometimes Origin creeps up into like the top 1, 2, but then like usually floating around it is like Odyssey. Like Odyssey hits number 1 for a ton of people. I
Well,
think I think I think I think Odyssey's number 1 for the people who skipped over Origins, to be honest. And the only real big knock back in the day why people were like, yeah, Origins is just isn't the best before they had Odyssey and Valhalla was people really were sad that they took out the amazing naval combat that Black Flag had.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
And that's honestly that's one of the very few saving graces to Odyssey for me is the naval stuff. I think it's really cool. I think it's cool managing your
yeah,
ship and all your crew members. The combat feels
that is
good.
all fun. Yeah.
But I stayed away from Origins for the longest time because I had always heard that Odyssey was just a reskin of Origins. And I'm like, well, I freaking despise Odyssey. Like it's got some of the worst gameplay of any game I've ever played. So I'm not definitely not gonna. And the Egypt thing, like, not really my setting, my kind of setting for a game, turned out to be freaking incredible for a video game. But
Amazing.
at the time, it was like not landing. Like I could care less. So I'd stayed away from it because if I hate Odyssey and I like that setting more than the Egypt setting, like I'm not gonna like Origins if it's just a reskin of Odyssey with a crappier setting. It turned out to be quite the opposite
Yeah,
on
and
both of those.
and I've always been quietly in the background, like everyone's playing, like, man, Origins is so good. I love that
Yeah,
game
you
so much.
have.
But then
Yeah,
again, I'm like, I'm kind of a nut job, and I just kind of like bad games sometimes. So I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe I just like bad games, and
yeah,
it's just
I'm
not for
like that too.
everyone.
Yeah,
I just like that I like now, like 5 years later. So many people think back on Origins, especially with where they've gone with the franchise. And they're like, "Oh no, Origins is so good." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I've been saying for like
yeah.
4 years." I'm like,
I agree with you, man.
"I love this game."
I think a the I would have never touched this game if it didn't get that patch, the 4K 60 FPS
Oh,
patch.
of course.
That propels this game to 2022. I mean, if you go play that now, it's freaking beautiful. Now, if you I made the mistake of bouncing between towards the end here when I was finishing up Origins, bouncing between Origins and Ghost of Tsushima. It's radically Ghost of Tsushima looks far better. But if
Yes.
you're in the moment and looking just at Origins, it's freaking beautiful, dude. Like it looks like if you lied to me and told me it came out this year, I'd believe you. That's how
70% the
good.
setting, but yeah. Yeah, it's just I've always been a fan of Egypt stuff, right? And like Roman antiquity, like
Yeah.
all that, and that's why I love the game so much. It's just the setting's so awesome. But then like you said, it's hard for for the wider everyone to really like be like, oh hell yeah, an Egypt game, because like you try to go on your bender here where you're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna dig into a ton of Egypt stuff and watch
Yeah.
Egypt
There's nothing.
shows and watch Egypt movies. There's
Yeah.
like one movie, one show, and that's it's Moon Knight and Exodus Gods and Kings.
Yeah.
That's
Which
really
is
all
so
you got.
bizarre. Like, yeah, it's so bizarre, man. Like, normally for a setting like this, like if I get on like a samurai kick, there's tons, dude. If I get on a Greek kick, if I do like
Oh yeah.
Odyssey and that stuff, there's tons. For whatever reason, outside of like the 60s, there's nothing for Egypt of any value. There's gods in the gods of Egypt, I think, which is like one of those terrible
It's always
action
it's always like a
CGI action
Moses or
movies.
Jesus like
Right.
story, like related, something
I,
religious, which is
yeah, and I
fine,
can't stand
but
it.
it's not
Yeah.
it's not like what this is talking about.
Right. At all. And I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people don't like Exodus Gods and Kings. I like that movie a lot.
It's a good movie.
I thought it was a really good movie. It was really well done. So
It's kind of like the
honestly, bro,
last
I
duel
probably
for
watched
us.
that movie like 5 or 6 times when I was playing this because it's all there is. You could do that or Tut, which is like a TNT show that came out a couple years ago.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Mummies, yeah.
as far as trying to get on to, keep my little kit going here, it didn't do much for me on the back end, movies and TV shows, but the setting itself, like I after I had finished Valhalla, like, did my 97 hours, I was like, okay, ready to
It's
move on to
nuts,
something
dude.
else. I was looking because I was bouncing between going back to Elden Ring and playing Origins. And I looked up like a review of Origins, like, dude, this game looks this world looks beautiful, man. Like, how did I not know that this game looked like this? And it just happened to be like, it was only a month or two ago that they released that patch that brought it up to 60 FPS. So
Staying alive.
yeah. And then it ended up being like, it was on sale. So it was like, I think I paid like $10 for it. So it's like, dude, steal of my life. I put 40 hours into it to finish the main story, around 40 hours. Well worth the $10 that I spent on it for sure.
No, it's a beautiful game. And I just feel like they poured a lot of detail into it and a lot of care. Like, it's just a very whole world. Whereas, like, you know, Odyssey is, but it doesn't flow as nice.
Yeah. So let's just break this down now, because I tried to play Odyssey while I was playing this. I was bouncing back and forth between these for a little bit. And for anybody to say that this is a reskin of Origins, like, you're just radically wrong. Like, I don't know where you're even getting that at. The world looks nothing like it. The gameplay is not even remotely close to it. The camera from the character, not even close to Origins. And that's like I didn't
forgot
realize
how close it hugged it. I didn't think about that until you said it, and then I reopened Origins this week, and I was like, wow, I'm like really close to the character.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, that Valhalla's about that length. Ghost of Tsushima, all the good games, I like being close to the character if I'm playing third person. I don't like it being Odyssey is almost World of Warcraft level of camera, right?
I never thought about that.
For whatever reason, I don't know if it's a glitch or whatever. I told you, like, with that crappy far away camera, it's also detaching from the character, so I can literally look like up in the sky and not see my character at all. Where if you do that in Origins, you look up, you're gonna see, like, it's gonna go down, and you're gonna see your character, like, looking up at your character. So it might be a glitch because it wasn't happening all the time to me. But I said, I can't remember, I think I was talking to Ben in the Discord. I said, I think that the issue with the gameplay for me is the sound design of the gameplay. It's just like now there's a lot of stuff in this game. I get it. They probably had their hands full, but they just shit the bed on the sound of fighting. Like, if you play Valhalla and Origins, combat is crunchy. You feel every hit. Everything feels like you're actually hitting something. Where in Odyssey, it's just like, I think it's just the sound. It doesn't sound like you're hitting anything, which makes you feel like you're not hitting anything. And I joked on the podcast before that it's almost World of Warcraft combat as well. So we have a World of Warcraft style camera where it's super far away and the combat doesn't seem like you're hitting anything. You know what I mean? There's a couple like of those skills, like the Spartan kick, where obviously they did the sound really well on that. That feels really cool to pull off. But as I was trying to figure out, like, because it is, and a lot of the animations are right from Origins, like the spear stab. There's a lot of the animations for fighting that's from Origins, but it feels so radically different in Odyssey because of the sound. There's not that crunchiness there. And I have to not be the only one complaining about it, because the marketing for Valhalla, they said multiple times that the combat was going to be crunchy and you're going to feel the hit. So people were probably talking about that coming off of Odyssey. And while Odyssey has a beautiful world and really cool systems, really cool elements, it's the gameplay that really brings you back to the game, right? It's the fun combat that brings us back to most of these games. And it just, for me, does not have it, even remotely.
Yeah, because Origins was the first game in a long time, especially like a console like RPG that sucked me back in, and I just could not stop playing it. And I would just play like 20 minutes at a time because it lets you, where I would play like 2-4 hours at a time. And then I picked up Odyssey. It's like, okay, I'll just kind of keep moving forward, right? I hear a lot of good things about Odyssey 2 years later, because it had a lot of microtransaction complaints, as these usually do. But I just didn't stick with it. It feels loose, right?
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
and I don't feel immersed into the world. I'm just
the camera. I'm telling you, it's the camera. That's what is breaking the immersion for you. I guarantee it.
And the other thing is, it has really, like, I had fun learning the systems, like
Yeah, I
how you
agree. Yeah.
fight, how you manage your equipment,
Right.
how you manage like all the different things. But the problem is there's so many systems and so much crap. It's like it detracts me from playing the story, the game, and moving about the world.
Yeah.
And that's like another issue I have with in terms of like keeping you there. But where Origins is just like the complete opposite. Origins is so dialed into like what it is doing.
Yes.
It's 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 the perfect balance because you don't have to manage your gear like a
Right.
crazy ton, but you can if you want. You get
Yep.
upgrades natural as you play. Um, and like there's a need to get like better stuff. Obviously, I've played so much and I did a lot of the like kind of like end game stuff where I got like ridiculous legendary items. Like I have all
Yeah.
legendary stuff on,
Yeah.
and it's I'm just kind of like OP. So like that element of the game is gone, but I remember playing it like through the levels, and it was just so organic and immersed as playing as Bayek with like poor Assassin's Creed man gear on,
Yeah.
like just like tattered cloths and like
Right.
a janky sword.
Yep.
It's just so good.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love the design. I think there's a lot of good stuff in Odyssey. I'm not gonna lie. The
No, yeah,
naval combat stuff is really cool. Managing your crews, recruiting people. If you knock them out instead of kill them, you can recruit them to your ship
yeah,
and make him a captain. All that stuff's really cool. The big battles that you have to do, where
those are
it's
fun.
like those are super fun. Love it. It's just everything else, everything getting to those points is kind of not very good. And it sucks because I think it literally would be fixed by just giving you an option to move the camera closer to your character. For 80% of what I'm complaining about, that would probably fix it. But
And tighten up the sound a little bit.
and tighten up the sound a little bit. And I think they learned from that. We have to remember that I think these games came out like
2
Origins came
years.
out and then was it 2 years? I thought it was a
2
year.
years between let me check. 2 years between Valhalla and Odyssey.
Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure that Origins came out in what, 2017,
Yes,
and
Origins came out in
Odyssey came out
2017.
in 2018, I'm pretty sure, because this was that time where they were like getting slack for kind of turning their their games into like Madden releasing one every year. But it's impressive if it is a year, which you're I know you're looking it up, but it's impressive that they built Odyssey in that amount of time. Now, granted, I'm sure
Oh,
different
yeah, it was
studios.
20 yeah, so it was October 2017 for Odyssey or Origins, and then October 2018 for Odyssey,
Yeah,
and then November 2020 for Valhalla. Yep.
yeah. So I
That's
bet if you
nuts.
look, I almost guarantee that different studios worked on Origins versus Odyssey. Uh, I would imagine because that's a big freaking game to make in a year. So it's probably 2 years, and they were split studios working on them, separately. But I don't know, man. I want so badly to like Odyssey because
Montreal did Origins, Quebec did,
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Odyssey.
So they were probably working, it was probably 2 years really,
And
maybe
Montreal
even
did
more.
Valhalla. The same s
Montreal, it
Montreal did
did
Origins and
Origins.
Valhalla.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that, like, Valhalla got a lot of hate when it released, a lot of hate, and I tried it and really could not get into it the first couple times that I tried it. And it was the same complaints as Odyssey. Like combat sucks. For whatever freaking reason, this Viking needs to climb on everything you come even remotely close to. Like you're trying to jump over a ledge, he's like climbing on the fucking wall and stuff. It's like, okay, you're not Spider-Man. I get that this is an Assassin's Creed game, but
They must have took complaints from Origins because Origins, like, is too like, you have to, like, hit the wall too hard to, like,
yeah,
do it, and or we have to hit X to, like, actually engage
right.
the climb.
Yeah.
Does Valhalla not do that? Like, it
Yeah,
just
but I
auto?
think I think that you run with X as well, so it's like the same. They're trying to keep that just hold X and you're gonna parkour over
Yeah.
everything, but, uh, it's just something you need to adjust to. Once I adjusted to the fact that this dude's gonna hug every wall that is possible, it it becomes a little easier to to stomach, you know?
Our, our buddy Michael Courtney says there's good fishing in Quebec. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
He's always fishing in video games, and I don't think he fishes in real life.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I don't think he does either.
something going
Maybe he
on
does.
here.
Maybe he does.
No, he doesn't.
It's one of his hidden hobbies.
You can't fish in this game, can you? Can you fish in Origins? I don't
You
think you can.
cannot. You can in Valhalla.
Wow.
Didn't do it a whole lot. That's the other thing.
I remember him talking about that.
There's a lot of really good like immersion elements in Valhalla. So same like I say all the time, like even my Ghost of Tsushima article I wrote for the website, like more immersion stuff in the sequel. So like inns to stay at and that kind of stuff. That just brings you into the world. I feel like a lot of these games don't do that for whatever reason. They kind of forego the immersion stuff and put in like repeatable raids like Valhalla has. Like I give two shits about repeatable raids. Like, but that probably pumped up my freaking game time probably 20 hours because I did a lot of those because there's cool weapons you can get from them. But I think that definitely Valhalla, it for my money, is a step in the right direction from Odyssey. We'll see with Mirage. I think Mirage could be really cool because it's going to be a smaller experience. It's supposed to take place in Baghdad, which is a really cool setting. The character, they have not confirmed. We're going to get like a Ubisoft Forward, I think September 10th, where we're going to see more of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that character that's jumping in the screenshot that they put out is Basm from Valhalla, who's a character in Valhalla. So that's cool. He was a cool character in the game. He's a assassin, but this looks to be like a prequel to his story, which could be really cool.
Michael has the Quebec fishing thing is a letter Kenny joke. Go figure.
Yeah, shocker.
I do know what he's talking about now that he says that.
Yeah.
I just couldn't hear him say that because he probably said it in some Canadian voice.
Yeah, that would have helped. Yeah,
a bad Canadian voice.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Mirage? I mean,
I'm excited for it because I like that it's set in a city. Right,
Yeah.
Baghdad. Obviously, now like Egypt, I also like Baghdad. I like this space. That's also why I
Yes.
like the original game because it's in like Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So those aren't places you play a lot as. Like you play in these type of places in Uncharted, right? I like games that go into these antiquity areas.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to go to Baghdad and like get a game in that area. I'm excited that it's possibly just in the city and that it sounds to me like it's going to be like a 10, 20 hour game, which is
Yeah.
fine. Right.
Yeah.
And these games are real. Like, I don't know, when I'm just when the mission is just like, hey, go assassinate this person. That's what these games, like, people like out of these games. Whereas
Right.
in Origins, like the most recent 3, you can choose, right? Do you just kind of go in there and just fight everybody?
Yeah.
To me, that's not fun. Like, I like trying to like kill as many people without being noticed.
Oh yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I want to go in there, swords a swinging.
I mean, I will if I have to, but like I like disabling the beacons, right? So
Yeah.
they don't call them reinforcements, and
Yeah.
I like taking everyone out stealth mode.
Yeah, it depends. It depends what game I'm playing. Really, the stealth elements have to make sense to me. So, like The Last of Us, love the stealth elements. The Last of Us makes sense. Ghost of Tsushima, wasn't into it. You know,
Nope.
You're supposed to be a samurai. They don't fight that way. I get that the whole story is the birth of the ninja that didn't actually happen for another couple hundred years. That's fine. I just wasn't into it. So the same thing with. I did quite a bit of stealth in Origins because it felt really good. It was fun. There's a lot of stuff you can use to your advantage. And Valhalla, I didn't because you're playing as a freaking Viking. Like,
Right.
They don't seem like the type of dudes that are going to sneak in and kill you in your sleep. They're going to roll up at your front gate and go to town.
A lot of shows though, they are sneaky and
Are they?
they're all
Yeah.
about that. But at times, but other times they like, it's going hog wild out on the battlefield. They're kind of a good dichotomy there. But that's a good point. Like it feels right because like Bayek, he is kind of like a resistance fighter. Like he doesn't have an army. It's just like him defending
Right.
his town is how it starts off. And
Yeah.
to the Ghost of Tsushima point, the coolest part of that game was like walking up to a group of people and like challenging them to, you know, not the duel, but the one strike thing. So the fact that that was such a cool element, that like there's so
Yeah.
many things in that game that was just, hey, no stealth, like just roll up and just announce that you are the baddest mf'er
Yeah.
ever,
Right.
and dress
Yeah.
like it too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I know you're gonna give me crap for it probably, but I restarted Ghost of Tsushima. I have never so even though I have replayed this game multiple, probably 5 times at this point, I have never replayed the base experience. It's always been New Game Plus. So I was like, I want to go back and start from freaking scratch, dude, on the director's cut, start
mhm.
from scratch with I have to upgrade everything again. And dude, it's like a totally different experience because you don't have to do any of that crap when you play New Game Plus. It's all unlocked. So I was hoping that that would revitalize my want to play this game again because I love it. But the thing that I think Origins or that the reason that Odyssey doesn't make any freaking sense to even exist, period, is because we have a game called Assassin's Creed Origins, right? It's the origins of the Assassins, correct? That's what this story is telling, their kind of birth. Odyssey takes place like I think a couple hundred years before Origins.
Mhm.
So what?
If not
So
more.
you came out with a game. You came out with a prequel called Origins about the origins of the freaking Assassin's Creed. Okay, and then you release Odyssey a year later that takes place hundreds of years before. Then I'm pretty sure has nothing to do with the Assassins. I could be wrong in that,
Well,
but I'm pretty sure you don't even get a hidden blade in
correct.
Odyssey. Maybe you do later on.
Uh,
I'm not that far into it.
do you? Not in the traditional sense if you do have one, like you don't lose the finger, right? So
Yeah,
Origins is the origin of like the creed where like you lose the finger and like they started the creed. Now, what I think Odyssey does, and this is where they get away with it, is Odyssey still gets to play with the whole like deep state, like hidden, the men behind the curtain,
yeah,
the things behind the curtain, the aliens, whatever it is.
yeah,
And that's kind of like what the main protagonist in Odyssey encounter is, just like this layer of just shadow movers behind everything, but behind the Spartan and Athens war.
yeah.
So that's the thread. Whereas like the characters you play, they're like demigods, and it gets
Right.
into real crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's like here, the other main issue with Odyssey, I think, is that the fact that I chose to play Alexios, the male character, and dude,
That
I
was a
don't,
mistake.
yeah, I know that that was a mistake. It just feels weird to play a Spartan-esque game as a female character.
Heck
So I
no.
didn't do it. I know that that's the pick. Like if you look at anything, everyone tells you to pick Cassandra or whatever her name
She's
is.
funnier. She's wittier. Like way
Dude,
better voice acted. That dude just
yeah,
like.
dude, it's rough,
I
bro.
hope they didn't pay him.
I hope that this was like one of the artists like son did it as a joke or something because they were rushing because it is not. I'd love to look up the voice actor, see what he did. Separate if he even got another project after this one, he probably didn't because
Well, you
it's real bad.
you encounter him as the chick, and like
Yeah,
that's the thing. I was
same.
like, because I hadn't heard him. I just knew to play as her from the get go, and I think Ben or someone in the Discord told me just
Yeah,
play as her. But then like when you encounter him in story, like the character, like who he is in the story, when you pick her, like he's just OP jacked up doofus with bad dialogue, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's just a stupid character. And
yeah. I agree.
I mean, it was pretty bad when I encountered him in game. I'm like, my God, can I just like kill him?
And that might be, yeah, I agree. And that might be, that might be hurting my perception of the game. But most of my complaints have nothing to do with the voice acting. Like, yeah, I get
Right.
it's awful. It's awful. But there's so much other awful crap in the game that it detracts for me of the voice acting. But like I feel like Valhalla would have really benefited from Odyssey's like where you can turn an area to one side or the other, Spartans
Mhm.
or Athenians. That seems like something that would have been really, really cool in Valhalla, like different Viking tribes or whatever they call them. And
See, I didn't like
you
that.
could
I
go.
didn't like
Oh,
that in
you
Odyssey.
didn't?
Well, I like the idea, but it had the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas problem where, like, you spent most of your time just fixing it.
Fixing it,
And
yeah.
narratively, like, it just makes you a complete mercenary because it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight." It just
Yeah,
that's the other thing is, like, nothing was tying me to the story or, like,
I agree.
make
Yeah,
there was no repercussion for me to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna fight for Athens in this zone, but I'm gonna turn around and fight for Sparta in this zone." And,
yeah,
and there's memes about it where it's just like, just she just picks what or your character just picks whatever side, like, just
right.
completely in it for
Yeah,
the glory, I guess.
yeah.
But
So
but to me, where a lot of those systems kind of start to show their blemishes, and then it just makes me like Origins so much more because you realize how true to itself Origins is because it doesn't need all that stuff.
yeah,
And from like the Ezio idea, like Ezio is like the best character in the series. Like he's like peak, like to me, he's that legendary assassin that somehow like everyone aspires to be.
yeah,
If
yeah.
only Bayek knew of him, right? But Bayek and his wife, like they are such fantastic
Oh,
characters
I agree. Yeah, I
through
agree
and through.
100%.
And
Yeah.
like the mission they're on, the hardships they go through, and then all the ways that ties together just in the world, like the circle stones
Yeah.
with your son, and you
Yep.
got, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he's a great out of the 3 games by far now, granted, like I said, didn't play as Cassandra. She might be better, maybe.
Yeah.
Bayek is my pick, even over Eivor from Valhalla, and I think Eivor's okay. Like, um, I think they had the opposite thing in Valhalla, which ended up being probably good for, but the male character is the better voice acted versus the female character is like the Alexios of that game. But Bayek is, yeah, dude, yeah, he's a great character. Like, without a doubt, the best out of these open world RPG style Assassin's Creed games. And it's shocking that when you play these side by side, Odyssey and this game looks radically better than Odyssey as well. And Odyssey has the same patch, the same 4K 60 FPS patch. The world looks better. Bayek, the character models look better. It's like, it's
It,
shocking how much
it's not
just
all
a
glued together.
studio. What'd you say?
It's not all glued together right. Like
Right.
I just feel like if I turn the camera the wrong way, I'm gonna be looking underneath the geometry of the world. Or you
Yeah.
know what I
It,
mean? Like
yes. Yeah.
there's that level of polish that doesn't exist. Whereas like you're walking around in like this Egypt and Origins, just like, dude, this is a solid, tangible place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Nothing's
for
out of
sure.
place. Everything looks good.
Yep, and some of the
Odyssey, it gets
locations are
bloated.
stunning in
Stunning.
Origins, especially Alexandria, I think is the first big city that you come to.
Historically accurate.
It's got that so I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's a historical building. It looks just like the Citadel from Game of Thrones, whatever that with the
Oh, the
flame
Great
up the top.
Lighthouse.
Is that the Great Lighthouse? Yeah. So
One of the great wonders of the world.
yeah, I don't know any of that crap. I could name one of them to be honest with you. But yeah, just something about the scale of that city,
Mhm.
especially like the larger like buildings with the steps and stuff. It feels appropriately scaled to everything. Whereas Valhalla, definitely, I think the scale feels a little off on Valhalla and
Mm.
Odyssey, certainly. Like there's probably really stunning locations in Odyssey. I just haven't got to them yet. But there's just something, I don't know, it just looks so much better. I don't know how to, I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I think I don't know. It's just the fact that it's so historically accurate and they took the time to do that, and maybe the other two are as well. But I just feel like that point isn't driven as far home as it is with Origins. And like walking around in Origins, you're like, man, these places are huge.
Yeah.
These temples are massive, but they're not too massive. The first time I encountered like what I think was supposed to be that was the Acropolis in Athens in Odyssey, and I was like, dude, this is like way too freaking big. Was it really this big? Because to walk the stairs to get up there, this takes forever.
Yeah. Right.
Like it's too big.
It's too
And
big.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's just they just overscaled it or if that's accurate and these locations are that crazy, but I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I've seen pictures of the ruins of the Acropolis, and this seems a little extra in
Yeah.
game.
And that might be it. That might be it's just too big. And that's why the scaling on everything just feels weird. I don't know I don't know how else to describe it. Just something feels scale wise. And it again, I hate to bring it up again, but it might be the camera angle as well that's screwing everything up because the further you're away from the camera, the less detail you see in everything. Like with that 4K upgrade on Origins, everything is freaking crisp, especially on a 4K TV. It looks it looks beautiful, dude. It's crystal clear. And Odyssey does not have that feeling. Odyssey feels very video gamey, I guess is the best way to put it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like pixelated, I guess. I don't know.
Um, yeah, and that's what I like about Origins too, is that it's a very big, very polished world, right? And you feel like you're going places on the map.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't take you forever to get anywhere.
Right.
Odyssey made me felt like it took forever to get somewhere
Forever.
because I
Yeah.
either had to jump in a boat, go that way, and sail forever, or it took me forever to walk there. All kinds of weird things. But like I can move around in Origins and get to where I need to go. And sometimes like knowing how far away something is, if it's 500 meters away, I'll run to it sometimes if I
Yeah.
have time because that's a fun run.
Yep.
Um, you'll see cool stuff on the way, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
Whereas the biggest thing, like, and this is really where I tapered off, was Odyssey. I went into Athens, talked to like the main person there that was starting all the quest stuff, and the city's just too big. Like, I just couldn't get anywhere in a timely fashion. I'm like, I'm just running through a generated city.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah. It feels
Odyssey
very
does not,
and I
or Origins does not have that feeling.
no, it definitely doesn't. And I try to not fast travel that much in
Right.
games because I feel it's very immersion breaking to fast travel in some of these games. But Odyssey is like one of those games that like you feel far more compelled to fast travel in that game,
Yes.
which is also not helping the already large stack of immersion breaking stuff. In Origins, like you said, the run is fun there. You're going to see some really cool stuff. You're going to run into a side quest probably at some point. You're going to get some bandits on the road. I love that these games, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 does it far better, but they have that automated horse thing where you pick a location
Yeah.
and your horse will just run to it. So that's really cool. Like, I don't think I fast traveled. I probably fast traveled in the 40 hours like four times maybe.
The only time I would be like, I just completely finished the zone. I'm not ready to go to like a new zone. I want to go back and clean up another one. I'll fast travel there.
Fast travel there, yeah.
But otherwise, I'm probably getting on my horse or I'm going to run it
Yeah, yeah.
because there's so much crap in between to do. And that's the other thing is like Odyssey, there was always times where I felt like I was running over just empty area and there the things to do aren't as enticing or as naturally placed. Whereas Origins, you're like going through an area, you're like, oh, this place looks cool. And you're just kind of exploring, but then it turns out to be like an actual thing, like a place that
Yeah.
a place of interest.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so, and I would come across those so organically, and then I would be like, crap, there's a freaking. I was like, I need to stop exploring and do the quests in the area first because a lot of times these quests take me back to the area.
Take you right through the yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the
And that's
game just walking through the world though just naturally brought you there before I even got the quest, which maybe that's a design issue, but
yeah. I think that I know that when I started Valhalla, they a lot of the like reviews and tips for beginners said to not explore because eventually the main story is going to take you to the location that you want to go to anyway. And I felt that way in Origins as well, but we talked about it before. Like I finished the game, like rolled the credits, and there's like there might even be more than 50% of the map that's not uncovered for me.
yeah.
And and that's a bizarre choice. I don't know if it I don't
I
know
don't know why
why they
the
did it.
left-hand side of the map was not used.
Yeah, it's really odd. And And I have not. I think I may have traveled to like one of those to uncover them. And there's a lot of stuff to do, and there's a lot of side quests and stuff to do in them. So it's odd that normally in an open world game, you're gonna go through it in the main
They kind of
story.
drag you
They
through
drag you
everything.
through everything, and then at the end, you go and clean up all your areas. This is maybe the first game I've ever played that literally doesn't utilize 50% of the map.
I
But
think because they knew what they knew the story they wanted to tell. They knew what
yeah,
they wanted to do,
and
but
I'm fine.
somehow
Yeah,
they
I'm fine
got
with it.
like carried away. Like, let's just keep building like a ridiculously big world. And I don't know
Yeah,
if there was like some sort of reason why they were like, "Hey, we need to include all this stuff because it's what Egypt was at the time." I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Um,
It's I had said to you that I thought maybe it was like the DLC. There's 2 DLC packs for this game,
they
story
just
DLC.
add to the
And
map.
they add separate locations totally off the map of Egypt. So, I think they probably take place in Egypt somewhere. I'm not 100% sure where.
Sinai Peninsula for the hidden ones, and then the Valley of the Pharaohs for
Right.
that one, which is south, kind of like toward Nubia down the Nile.
Yeah. But this is one of probably since Ghost of Tsushima that it's just fun to just
Yes.
explore this freaking world, man. It's fun. Like like I have not been as compelled to take screenshots in a game since Ghost
I
of
was gonna.
Tsushima.
I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah. I took quite a few here, man, because it's just like the pyramids off in the distance and the freaking sandstorms and stuff. And I don't know what it is about like a nighttime desert that just really does it
So
for me.
cool.
It's so freaking cool. So I have quite a few nighttime shots of like the pyramids off in the distance and stuff. Yeah, it's just a really, really well put together world. And it doesn't need the naval combat. Like you
No.
have ships that you can traverse in, but and there are a couple story missions where you do naval combat with Bayak's wife. So it's there very, very, maybe like 2 or 3 missions, including the last one, which is like a big
Hmm.
naval battle. But it doesn't need it. It doesn't need it at all.
Bayak's not a sailor. Like he's just
No.
a homeboy from
Right.
like little oasis town, and he's just like the protector of the area.
Yeah.
I- If he needs a boat, he's gonna grab the little dinky thing, row up to the big ship, and kill everybody on it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's really all you need cuz there's a couple of big bodies of water in the area,
Yeah.
but you don't need those big ships and naval battles in those bodies of water to complete this game. It doesn't need it. And I'll be honest, like the pyramid stuff, going through some of the pyramids, dude, it felt like the best of Uncharted at times, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, there's a lot of variety in the gameplay and a lot of variety in the actual world itself, whether it's, like Memphis, is that I don't know how
Yep.
you say it, might have, like,
Yeah,
some
you're right.
fancy so that is, like, quintessential Egypt, like, when I think of Egypt in my head, that city is what I think of. But then
Yeah.
you also have, like, the Roman city up north that you get to later that's, like, radically different from everything else in the area. Same with Alexandria. Alexandria is very like I don't say industrialized, but more less Egypt looking, I guess the
Yep.
best way to put it. So there's just a vast variety of locations, and I think that's something Valhalla did not necessarily do very well. Like a lot of those locations, and I'm talking like 85-90% really kind of look the same. Even the DLC episodes that take you to like France and Ireland. Ireland looks different because obviously it was, but France looks identical. Like if you put them side by side and told me to pick which one was England, I wouldn't be able to tell you. You don't get that in Origins at all because it's felt like every new location was like stunning to me.
In a
Like
new
it's
way too.
in a new way, right? Yeah, and that's something that more recently Dragon Quest 11 really impressed me with was getting to like okay, you get to this is definitely the main town of the game, and then you get to the next one that's way bigger and you're like okay, this is definitely the main town, and it just goes till the end of the game. And I felt that way going up to the very final. I mean that last like Roman city that you get to,
Hmm.
Serene or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head. Dude, it's the biggest city by far, and it's way late in the game you get to it, like last couple missions, and there's probably there's probably 25 side quests in that little town
Yeah.
to go through. So yeah, it was just a hell of a ride, dude. I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, and it's cool though because with all those very different locations, it also progresses like, and this game, like I'm playing on New Game Plus right now, I think, for the DLCs, or
Yeah.
is I'm okay with it, but this game makes me want to go back and just play a brand new game because I think back, like, there's times where my style of play in this game was like a spear, a shield, and like I'm just like
Yep.
poking off like Roman soldier grunts, right? In early levels. And just like it goes from Bayek is just the defender of the town and his like little region, and then like he slowly gets exposed to this ridiculously larger world. And every region has like a different strife that's going on, all
Yeah.
kind of focus on like the Romans kind of, but like there's Romans, there's the Greek
Yep.
Egyptians, you have like the true native Egyptians, there's, their temples are being torn down, they're being replaced, like there's
Yeah.
so many different like problems going on in this very very culturally diverse area
Yeah.
and period of time. And like Bayek's just like kind of weaving through it all.
Yeah.
And
So
they
good,
do
man.
such a good job at like placing his character through that narrative.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you completely. Even right from the very, I think you're maybe in a pyramid or some sort of major structure at the very beginning of the game, and just the scale of that, what you're in there, it just you could tell right from the beginning the game is going to be epic in every location that you go to, because the
And you're
first
just
one
in
you're
this
in,
tiny oasis town.
yeah, you're in this tiny little town. Yeah, it's hilarious, dude. So I did think about going back immediately and playing New Game Plus. I I want to finish up some of the side quests before I did that, but I just feel like, especially with the games that are longer than this, like I like forget what happened in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because it's been such a ride. But I do have like slight complaints, and this is really probably just the time that this game came out. The customization on the characters really kind of sucks. Um, if you look at, I think Odyssey does it very, very well, unfortunately. But if you get a piece of in the loot system, I could go either way on the loot system. I don't know that these games need a Destiny style loot system. I think Valhalla, for my money, gets the winner there, where there's only a certain amount of armors, there's only a certain amount of weapons. Odyssey
Mm,
probably has, it seems like Odyssey has like 3 million
so much.
weapons that you can go through. But what they do really good in Odyssey is taking the transmog, where you can take a weapon that you don't like the looks of and immediately turn it into something that you picked up earlier that you like the looks of better. For whatever reason, they didn't do any of that in Origins. And really, I don't know that it would have fit in this game very much. It did drive me crazy. You know my arrow quiver story, so it did drive me crazy that I couldn't take the shield and the bow and the weapon off of Bayek at any point. It doesn't let you do that, but I found a glitch that allows you to do it. So I was
Mm.
actually able to remove I don't carry a bow. I didn't use a bow really at all throughout the game. And I didn't carry a shield either through probably over 80% of the game once I found that glitch.
See,
I was just straight Oberyn with a spear and light armor rolling through town.
I like having all the crap on me. I like seeing like both my bows back there, my shield, my sword. I like the fact that everything that like is equipped is visible.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't Transmorg. It's fun and cool, but to me, the replacement for that in Odyssey or in Origins is you can just go to the blacksmith and upgrade all your stuff to your current level. So
Yeah.
to me, I don't like Transmorg just because it's too easy.
Well, yeah,
I like finding the like good weapons
the
throughout
matching stuff and the
because
matching stuff. Yeah.
yeah, because there's stuff from early on in the game that I technically keep because I like that weapon or like
Right.
different stats.
Yeah.
And obviously there's like early legendaries because I was like legendary hunting for a while to like get all the ones that I wanted.
Yeah.
because I would find one. I'm like, I might find different ones, but I like this one, so I just keep upgrading that one. Like I have it's like the Sun Sword or whatever. The thing is just wicked
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It's just for me, it for me, the transmog stuff, like I don't want to be running around in like mismatched armor and
You're out here
a,
surviving,
a
man.
red helmet and a blue shirt and green pants. It's just not for me. Like I want to look right. And that's what I think like
Well,
Tsushima does really well.
mhm.
Okay. Like all their sets are perfect. But giving the option, like maybe people do like you said, you like finding the matching stuff. And I can see that in a loot based game, that is something to drive for, trying to find the matched pieces to all your armor set. But at the same time, I don't want to be mismatched while I'm trying to go through all of, like I want to, especially in a historical with a historical setting, I don't want to look like I, just ransacked some random house and stole,
That's how it is
separate
sometimes.
pieces of armor from their house.
Yeah, but it's just weapons and Origins, isn't it? All the gear is just like your outfit, and you
Yeah.
buy that stuff or
Yeah.
get them from like quests and stuff. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's nice that you can get right your
Yeah.
look, and then
Yeah,
it's just all about
absolutely.
the weapons being mismatched or matching
Yeah,
more or less.
I absolutely what Origins does really well is the outfits are just outfits. I can't stand absolutely can't stand, and Tsushima does it as well. I can't stand when they put stats onto armor, like different buffs and different debuffs and all that stuff. It drives me absolutely bonkers. And for the most part, I know there are people that like try to min max their characters when they're playing these games. I play what I like to look at, like what looks cool to wear. I don't care what the stats are. I rolled most of Ghost of Tsushima in the freaking Ronin, like samurai outfit, no armor whatsoever. So I hate that. Valhalla does that, but what these games kind of lack in that department is the stat bonuses that they're putting on it. I don't know that you're really even going to notice much of what it's doing because it's like very minimal. So you can get away in these games. Like Origins does it right. It's just give me an outfit. Like that's what I
Yeah,
look like. I don't want different stats. I don't want, set bonuses and all that crap. I hate that. So I really, really enjoyed that out of Origins, that I didn't have to deal with that. Even though if it was there, I was still going to just wear whatever the hell I thought looked cool anyways.
yeah,
It's just cool to not have to worry about that. And if they're going to do the loot system, I think that Origins nails it perfectly as well, where there's not, like I said, 3 million weapons to choose from in Odyssey. And, every couple of levels, you're getting a new piece of armor. Every other kill, you're getting a new piece of armor. And it's
mhm,
really Destiny style, like swapping stuff out you spend most of your time in the menus swapping your gear out than you do actually playing the game.
right.
And Origins does that freaking perfectly too, where there's a loot system, but it's very refined. The weapon that I used probably through over half of the game. Like I stuck with the same. I found a really good legendary spear. Spears were my jam in that game. Like I needed the weapon that had the instant kill with the power up thing where you hit R1 and R2, and
Yeah,
that freaking spear stab is just so cool to pull off, dude. So I stuck with the spear for a decent amount. I tried the sword. The sword has the instant kill stab as well. I
I
don't
love the
know.
sword and shield.
Yeah, do you?
So I went through a lot of different weapons through my time because I played it over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Um, but my just like OP character right now is just sword and shield is like the primary weapon, but then I rock the like short sword and like dagger, um, the dual sword
Yeah,
model. Just it's not very effective in all combat situations,
I
but
agree.
to switch between sword and shield and then that combo is really nice in navigating like fights.
Yeah, I found a legendary spear, like I said, pretty early on, and I found a legendary short sword. very early on. The range on them absolutely blows. But
Yes.
bouncing back and forth between the spear, which has a really great reach on it, and the short sword, that's probably the combo I used the most throughout my playthrough. Just because I don't know how you pronounce the like bosses that roam the world in this game. There's zealots in Valhalla. I don't know how you Phylax or something, that like bosses you can go hunt down with the red skull.
Oh yeah.
Those short swords just eat those dudes alive, dude, because they have like huge stagger on them, so you can literally just stun lock them with those swords. So
Yeah.
I use those daggers quite a bit. But towards the end of my playthrough, I started using scepters, and scepter feels so. It just feels very Egypt. Like if I think of a weapon from Egypt, I'm going to think of that. You know what I mean? And I got a really cool one that's like a cobra head. So it's like quintessential. Looks like a weapon from Egypt if I pictured it.
You feel like you're Jafar or something.
Yeah, and it's yeah. And that comboed with the spear, it's perfect because unfortunately the scepter has like the power up attack is like you just do extra damage, like he stabs it down and then you just are quicker. And I didn't really like that. I like the one shot kill. So I was bouncing back and forth. Every time that bar would come up, I'd switch to my spear, stab somebody, and then switch back to the scepter. But yeah, the scepter's fun because it's super fast. It hits really hard. The two that I used the most, one had poison on it, and then the other one had instant charge with the R2, where you could charge it instantly and you could just whale people with this thing. And it's great, man. And the other thing that I think Origins does almost as good as Valhalla is the like those instant kill things that you can do.
Yeah.
They just feel
they're very
really
organic
cool.
too.
They're very organic. It just flows with the combat really, really well. And I think the other thing is like it's not the instant one shot kill, but like the death animations when you kill somebody. Valhalla has some really cool death animations, but they're almost freaking impossible to pull off. And I got to be honest, after 97 hours, I still don't know how. Like it just happens randomly, or if I'm doing something on purpose. But it seems to happen quite a bit in in Origins, and it's just cool to pull off with the scepter, dude, because he just like hits him to the ground and then sweeps the whole thing away and smacks him with the tip of it. It's just, have you used the scepter at all?
No,
really?
Because I'm not like a mace. I believe in like bows, daggers, and swords in this game.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just my play style.
Yeah, I wanted. I was really jiving with the spear, but some of the animations with the spear, the attacks are kind of slow.
Yeah.
So I wanted that, I was,
you can get
like I said,
easy too.
Right. Yeah. Also true. But it does have like, it's good for managing enemies in front of you because it's got a very long sweeping. The basic attack is like a long sweeping attack.
It's a good early weapon.
Yeah.
The spear and shield, because it keeps distance between you and your enemies before you get better with the hidden blade and
right.
some of them, you're a little tougher.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And dude, I've probably done it 500-600 times, no joke. That spear single shot, dude, is just the most badass thing to pull off in a game. And it's just a cool animation, dude. And it feels like you can feel it. Like it's crunchy. It feels weight. There's weight behind it. So
this sword kill animation is just fantastic.
Really cool.
I love it.
And I did use
there's a variety of them too.
The sickle sword quite a bit, and I like it. It's a little slower than I would personally like.
I have a legend. I don't think I have I don't have a legendary sickle sword. Maybe that's what I need, because it'd be cool to roll around. Because early on in the game, I was looking for like those real quintessential Egypt, like Middle East, like scythe swords. I really wanted one because they look cool and they went with the vibe.
Yeah, I definitely got quite a few really cool legendary weapons. Now, this is another thing I got to bring up. I know people really hate the microtransactions in these games. I know that a couple of them are really bad. they sucker me in every time, dude. Like I bought a ridiculous amount of stuff for Valhalla. I didn't even pay for Valhalla. It's on PlayStation Plus. And I bought a bunch of stuff. I probably bought $60 worth of stuff
Oh my
for
god.
in the game.
I just resist that stuff because I like
I
finding it in
try.
game.
I try, dude, but there's something in Valhalla that was really bugging me, and there was something that I could buy to fix that problem. It was almost the arrow quiver issue, to be honest with you, and I
Yeah.
could buy something to, and it was the only thing in the game. Like I couldn't go in the game and find this specific item to wear, but yeah, same thing happened in Origins, man. I had to get like the Pharaoh outfit with the gold. That's the other thing that I felt was weird. Like I feel like they did not put in as much Egyptian looking armor as I thought was going to be in this. Like those headdresses they used to wear, there's not an outfit in it that has those headdresses. Now maybe that was
It's
100
with the
years away.
time.
Yeah, it might
No,
be.
that was like 3,000 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I noticed like,
Egypt's so old, dude.
oh, I
Egypt's
bet,
like
yeah,
8,000 years old, and this is 2,000 years ago,
right.
where the
But
when the game takes place.
I noticed like even NPCs wearing it. I was like, yeah, I want that badass headdress. Like, how do you make a game in Egypt and not put that freaking headdress in it? You know
Because
what I mean?
Bayek's not about that crap.
And
I
the
wouldn't wear
pharaoh,
certain gear, certain outfits that I would get. Cause I'm like, there's one that's like a lion or something like that. I'm
yeah,
like,
you
it
get that
doesn't.
early. Yeah,
I'm like, I
not
wouldn't
into it.
wear that.
No.
Bayek's not gonna wear that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There's a lot of armor in there that looks insanely hot for the desert, and that's one of them that just looks way
It's
too like,
metal
yeah,
lion,
yeah. He's just
whatever.
gonna roast in there. But I know that when the game launched, they did not have the option to remove the hood, I think,
Right? Yeah, you
or
can
the
now.
beard and the hair, and you can do all of that now, which is really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I had to get the Pharaoh outfit because it was the only one that had, even though it's like made out of, it's a helmet essentially. It's the only one that has that headdress on it. And then I really wanted to get the Pharaoh armor because it's the exact armor that the Pharaoh wears in Exodus, Gods and King. Like it's almost identical to it. And then I could not for the life of me find a legendary scepter, and I had to buy 2 legendary scepters, and that's the one, that Cobra one with the poison and then the instant charge thing.
They sell you the good stuff. See, I don't even look at that stuff. I don't even tempt
Yeah, I really shouldn't. I mean,
myself.
I hate that. I hate microtransactions in games primarily because they get me every time. Because my RNG, if it's an RNG game, man, and it's got microtransaction, you can bet that I'm going to be buying stuff with real world money because I'm never going to get it to drop in the game. And that literally, I didn't get a legendary scepter in 30 hours of gameplay in this game. Like, I think there might only be a handful of them, and majority of those are on the store to purchase, not in the game.
I need to look and see what weapon types I don't have a legendary of. So speaking of like, you bought that armor that's basically from Exodus, Gods and Kings. What I really liked about this game is that when I started stumbling across like the immersion breaking elements of the game, like these weird side quests, the end game where you're fighting. Have you ever fought like one of the gods in the desert?
No.
Okay, there.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I did, but I had glitched my bow off, and you can't melee them, so I ended up running away. You have to kill them with a bow, or at least the one that I was fighting, you had to kill with a bow.
Yeah, those. There is a really cool ruin that's kind of like the space, like almost like Ancient Aliens type crap, like way out in the desert.
Oh yeah.
And this was like one of the first. I was doing this really crazy quest, and I'm like, where is this going? I'm like, what is this quest having me do? And then like it's a ton of puzzles, right? And then all of a sudden, like out of the sky, like it's like a lightning bolt. I forget even what happens, but from it, I
You got
got
legendary sword and a legendary shield. Right?
from Final Fantasy, the
Or Final
Ultimate
Fantasy.
Blade.
I did the
Yeah.
same one. I stumbled across it.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I was like,
Yeah.
what is this thing? And it
Yeah,
like makes
it's
the
cool.
wickedest noises.
Yeah, it's cool. I got that rather early and never really ended up using it because it's got like a freaking motorcycle engine as the handle or something. I don't know. It just felt, the shield I used quite a bit because the shield looked a little more grounded, but the sword it's like the Excalibur in Valhalla. Like it's got a very sci-fi vibe to the
Yeah.
Excalibur when you finally find it in Valhalla. And I used it quite a bit, but I like the more grounded weapons. You know what I mean? Like, give
Yeah,
me some cool like poison stat or something ridiculous on the weapon, not the actual look and sound of it.
yeah, I used it for a while just because it was really good. And also it had some good stats on it. Like it
Yeah, it
was
does.
just it's lightning fast.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I ditched the shield and then I eventually ditched it, but I do like the sci-fi elements that are sprinkled in throughout here.
Yeah.
Especially when you
Yeah.
kind of when they like dabble on the ancient alien like weird
Yeah,
stuff.
it's really cool. Yeah, one of the early boss fights is like that giant cobra, like down in the. You
Mhm.
might be under maybe a pyramid or something. Can't remember where you're at. It was early on, but cool boss fight, and it's
Yeah.
cool to get that kind of stuff to break up the monotony of just historical stuff. You know what I mean? That you're going through. It's cool to have some of those elements in there.
Yeah, and it's Bayek like, what is going on? Like
Yeah, yeah.
this
He's
is
like just tripping. Yeah,
he's like, this stuff's crazy.
yeah.
Um, but there's that stuff, but then I can like clear Roman forts like all day. Like
Oh,
let
dude,
me
blast. Yep.
find the stuff, and they're legitimately hard. Like
Yeah.
killing some of those like commanders in those forts, insane. Like they're tough.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're
I
all like
I
little mini puzzles in terms of like how do you get to this guy? Because
Yep.
you can't I mean, honestly, I think you could I don't know. Like I really don't like doing it, like fighting everyone in the fort because
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, man. It is very, very difficult in this game to roll up and just try to whoop ass. And that's something that Valhalla does not do very well. Like those river raids, there were a couple times that in those replayable river raids, you have like a set crew. And when you go into it, if that crew member dies, you can revive them with a ration. If you don't have a ration, they're dead. And then as you travel, you're just losing members on your ship.
Mm,
And I got sick because these guys were just like turds, dude. They'd roll up and die at the first place. So I would just park the boat in the river, jump out, go whoop everybody's ass, and then call the raid in so I could get all the loot at the end because you have to have those members to get the loot.
yeah.
And if they're dead, obviously you can't get the stuff that you just raided. So yeah, as far as difficulty, it's radically different in Origins. Like I said, I stealth around quite a bit in this game, and it's primarily because it's fun, and B, it's way too hard to just roll in and try to
Yeah.
fight everybody. Even in late game, man. Even in the late game with awesome weapons, still
Yeah.
very difficult to pull off.
Yeah, I play on hard and like
Yeah,
it's just not happening.
right.
And I think nightmares after that, which is impossible.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But even if you could like just open combat like a Roman fort, like the medium to small ones, not the big
Yeah.
ones. There's just too
No
many
way.
guys. And even the medium and small ones, the medium enlarges, you're gonna want to at least stealth and put a trap on the beacon because they like
Yes.
that beacon. It's just
And
nonstop.
the other issue with that is if you have one of those roaming bosses that I was talking about earlier
Yes,
in the area of that beacon, they
they'll
come
come.
too. And most of them, especially early on, are way higher level than you. I'm
Yep.
talking like 20, 30 levels higher than you. So they are literally one
Yeah,
shot
they're
you. So
skulls. You don't even know what they're doing. Like
yeah,
you run from them.
yep. And there were multiple times where I like almost cleared the entire fort, and then I let a dude light that off, and then a dude 30 levels comes rolling up and one shots you, and I'm like, dude, it's so frustrating, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
Yeah, those dudes aren't a problem anymore. Now, once you beat the game, and you're like all leveled up,
Yeah, I think the
there are,
highest one is 40. So
but as you're progressing the story, there are it like escalates where like, oh, there's one after you and it's okay. But then there's like one point where there's like three of them after you and they are pissed and they are
yep,
tough.
yeah,
But that's the other thing I don't like about Odyssey is like one, you can just openly whoop ass,
right,
and then two, like you'll have just one after another of like the bounty hunters coming after you in Odyssey, but you can
yeah,
like
they're
kind of fight
easy.
them.
Yeah,
You can take on
yeah.
like so many enemies in that game.
Yeah, you are way, way overpowered, especially if you put in very few skill points into that skill tree. You become overpowered rather quickly in Odyssey.
Yeah, and
And that sucks because
Origins.
that's another immersion breaking thing where you're just whooping everybody's like there's a skill, and I think it's in I think it I don't think it's in this game. I didn't put too many skills into the bow because I didn't use the bow a
Right.
lot,
That's
but
my
there's
least. My
yeah,
least.
but there's a skill in Odyssey where you can like hit like 20 people at once with a single shot of like you're just shooting multiple arrows, and it's just way overpowered. Like you can imagine if you get one of those quick bows where it's like automatic, whatever they call them, light bows, I think.
Yeah.
With that skill, it's just like you're just slaughtering everything that you come in contact with because you're shooting like 20 people at a time with multiple arrows with a single press of the button. It's like, dude, this is way too much.
Yeah, I use bows. I barely use bows. Really, they're a utility or like just like an extra thing to do. But the main thing I do with bows is I rock a predator bow pretty heavily because
Yeah, that
you
thing's
got to get
cool.
the guided arrow thing because like
Yes. Yeah.
I will shoot around walls and like do all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy trick shots with those.
Yeah.
And they're also super handy if you play a stealth build because you can just stealth people like the
For
dudes in
sure.
the towers, whatever it is.
And the first person, I really like the first person. I use those quite a bit in Valhalla, so I was excited that they were in here.
Nice.
But I don't know. It's just like it's like the arrow quiver thing, man. Like if there's something that's an eyesore to me and I can eliminate it, it's gonna get eliminated. And unfortunately, the bow got glitched out, and I really did never use it that much. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of using bows in these games. I don't know why. Like
Only to like fight other bow guys, but
yeah,
just
that
really out of
right.
utility of like a combat situation. It's never my primary thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to jump back to like running away, right? Like how you have to do that in Origin still, especially from
Yeah.
those. That's an element from like the early Assassin's Creed games, like in Brotherhood, where it's very like open city. You could not just be in a mad brawl in the middle of the streets. Like you got tuned up real
Oh,
fast.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
you had to like run away, and like
Yeah.
Origins, like sometimes you just gotta run away,
Sometimes you gotta do it, man.
or
Yeah, I did it
or
a
at least
lot.
reposition yourself in like another area and just like try again.
Yeah. The other thing that was really annoying the crap out of me is this game does have a lock-on, system where you can lock onto
Yeah.
an enemy, but Bayek does not lock onto the enemy. He still moves freely, okay?
Yes.
And it drove
Just the
me
camera.
absolutely bonkers. It's just the camera locking
It's
on
not
it.
like
But
Ghost.
I found out that you can tap L1, one click, and he locks on. And I didn't
Yeah.
find that out until probably 20 hours into the game. I was like, holy crap, I missed this whole time. I've been frustrated with this Bayek turning his back to his enemies that he's locked onto.
I only
And
block bosses or like really bad guys.
yeah, I think that that's another thing that's very immersion breaking in some games if it's not done properly is the lock on system.
Yeah.
And this game does not need it. Valhalla does not need it. Odyssey, it can go either way, but it's very immersion breaking because the camera backs off even further when you lock on in Odyssey. So yeah, I didn't need to do it in this game, but there were like those bigger guys, the hunters that come after you. I would always lock onto them, or any of the bigger enemies that I wanted to keep track of. But yeah, it does make it feel very video gamey when you lock onto a character like that if it's not done right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where it gets, they become you want it to be a boss fight and you want to like use your environment because like when you lock on you can't like
Can't do it, yeah.
climb and like
Right.
do some of the other stuff. It kind of like locks you into like a melee spar with them.
Yeah.
But then I only do it if like there's no other bad guys around because then you get blindsided so easily if you have the lock on feature going.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely it was only utilized really one-on-one. Like if rather it was like the captain at the end of the camp that I was fighting or one of those roaming bosses. But I think that yeah, I think they should maybe I know a lot of people want them to go back. And I think you're good. Like we said, I think Mirage is going to be their answer to the people that are saying go back. Because like you said, it's taking place in a city. It's not going to be a big open world, but you're still going to have Infinity, which is going to be the continuation of this trail of Assassin's Creed games. And I think that's a good combo for them to strike, because there are a lot of people that, and I would say a decent amount of people that want those older games. And if you could do both of them at the same time, that's really cool. So we'll see. Baghdad seems like an odd location. I'm here for it. Sounds cool. But I don't know anything about the history of ancient Baghdad. So who knows?
Hey, there's some bad guys in there that you gotta
Yeah.
assassinate.
Yep.
That's the game here. And I guess like through the years, like just whether I was actively playing or just like playing and having opinions about these games, when you look back on them, like this franchise is still rock solid.
I agree.
They
Yeah.
it was very groundbreaking with the first one and like up to their peak there. But even then they've continued to innovate on that formula, obviously hijack elements of other trending games in the industry, but still be Assassin's Creed. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in their ability to bridge this gap here between this like 200-hour open world RPG and then like the 20-hour linear platformer. And
Yeah.
I think they're there. And I like the Fortnite thing doesn't even sound as strange to me because I'm pretty sure Brotherhood I played the multiplayer. Was there was it what I swear it had multiplayer where like it was
There's a
arena
couple. Yeah. There's a
arena
couple.
like matches and like you would Brotherhood had multiplayer and it was fun. It was fast. You were just in this like arena and everyone's just trying to assassinate each other.
Yeah, well, I didn't when they say Fortnite style,
Sure.
that's not what they're going for. I think they're saying how it's going to become like a platform where they continuously add
Well, then they
stuff
say
to
Grand Theft Auto Online.
this this one game. You should say that too. Yeah.
That
That
would
would
be the
probably be
better
a
thing
better
to say.
yeah, it definitely would be the better, but Fortnite's probably more popular, so they want to strike that chord. But I think that it's interesting because Brady actually pointed out when I was playing Valhalla, okay, that in the store, the Ubisoft store where you can spend money, there's Shinobi armor you can buy for Eivor. Obviously didn't buy it because that feels weird to put it on a Viking. But when I went back to Odyssey, there is Viking armor in Odyssey, okay? And the next game was Viking. So I'm like, Shinobi armor in Valhalla. Maybe we're gonna finally get a game set in Japan. And I think the rumors are they're heading somewhere in that direction.
They need to move that direction. I mean,
I agree.
this format just never gets old, especially because like I feel like they have such a wide range of attention they can pull because they have just like RPG players like
Yeah.
you. They have like, solo game players like me that love like history and like
Yeah.
nerdy crap like that. And so it's just like keep touring us around the world and just loosely string together this idea that there's always like bad guys in the shadows and we have good guys in the shadows
Yeah,
just
dude, it
assassinating
seems
them.
yeah, I mean, if you look at it like that, it seems like the obvious choice when we're talking
Ninja.
about warriors in the shadows to go to Japan. And I know that maybe Ghost of Tsushima worried them a little bit because Ghost of Tsushima came out, did everything really, really well, and was super popular, and they don't want to release a game that maybe doesn't live up to Ghost of Tsushima. But the only thing they have to do to correct that is set it in what we think of feudal Japan in our head, not the Mongol invasion hundreds of years later when it's actually warring states, in a
Mhm.
civil war style inside of Japan. And Japan has a long, long bloody history just within itself. Like we don't need like I get the idea of the Mongol invasion doing something different, but there was a lot of things they had to change historically to
Make it happen.
make it happen, including the katana not even being made for another couple hundreds of years. They used a similar weapon that was much bigger, and I think they even call it that name in Ghost of Tsushima at some point. But all you have to do is take it to that warring Sengoku Sekiro era of Japan,
Baghdad is technically closer. They're moving in that direction.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
They're moving in that direction. It's ever
Yeah.
so slightly closer, but I could see them doing like in India, because like Pakistan, like just move through the Middle East. There's tons of like Persian related items you could touch
Right.
on.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And
Um,
I love the Persian armor on Origins was my jam. Like I love that. That's my
yeah,
favorite armor set in that game. But I think that here the fan base has been asking for literal probably decades at this point for them to go to Japan. It's the time to do it. If you're going to do Infinity, where you're
oh
going
yeah,
to stack different stories onto this, you might as well throw it in there somewhere, man. Like nobody, and I even said like I said in that article that I wrote for the website on things we want from a Ghost of Tsushima sequel, there are some things that Assassin's Creed does far better than Ghost of Tsushima does, especially in weapon variety, especially in customization, all that stuff. And that's something I really want from the sequel, is because the samurai didn't only fight with katanas. Like that's the most notorious weapon that they used. But having the option to fight with a spear, if you want to fight with a spear, fight with a big two-handed sword, fight with smaller swords. There's a lot of things that they could go and add to Ghost of Tsushima that Assassin's Creed has been doing it for years. You know what I mean? Origins has a great variety of weapons, whereas Tsushima just really has styles, different looks to your katana. So I don't know, man. I think they could easily pull off a Sengoku era Japanese setting in the next Assassin's Creed game, and it would really, really hit, because I think there are a lot of weebs out there that when they think of that era, they think of samurai. That's the era they're thinking of, and it looks radically different from, the Tsushima time. So
yeah. I'm looking at the map. Egypt, the portion of Egypt that this covers is like maybe half of mainland Japan. So like if you stretch it out, like it
yeah,
wouldn't have to be, it's not radically that hard for them, especially if they just continuously scale the game right. They could just do a whole map of Japan, and
yeah.
because now
Japan's
okay,
not, Japan's not that massive. So
it's pretty big though. But what see
not
this is
compared to
where
Valhalla and Odyssey. I'm sure you could
see yeah,
easily fit Japan into Odyssey.
that's true. Yeah, let me see the Greek, the wider Aegean, all that. Dude, Japan's really big. It's bigger
Really?
than you
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah.
It is bigger than the Italian peninsula,
Oh wow, I didn't know
than
that.
Italy. It's a
Yeah,
biggins.
I think
Um,
that that would probably make, say Assassin's Creed Infinity comes out and it's set in mainland Japan. That's going to make Sucker Punch sweat a little bit on the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, because that's almost certainly where they're going in the sequel.
yeah,
There's no doubt.
but are they going for that many RPG? Obviously, they can really complex up
They're
Ghost.
really radically, even though Tsushima got compared to Assassin's Creed a lot when it launched, they're very radically
They're
different
very
games if you
different
look and play them.
experiences.
Very
Very
different.
different
Yes.
experiences.
Yeah.
Now this is if they really want to be ambitious and really capitalize on everything they've built in this Antiquity trilogy they have, take it to Japan, do the whole country, the whole island, right? Introduce all the mechanics of like Odyssey with like the immersion and polish of Origins, because the faction warring
Oh,
part of
dude.
Odyssey
Yes.
be nuts.
Would fit so good, dude. Yeah. I
But
agree.
like but make it a little bit more blended into the story and somehow more meaningful. Like you can't
Yes.
just
Yeah.
flip sides.
Right.
Um but yeah, like those big battles, like capitalize on all that crap and just build us in Japan.
Yeah.
And I want to see I want to see the little provinces change colors and all that jazz.
And
And
the move to send Goku, it's a more, I don't want to say civilized because it certainly was not civilized, but it's a more modern take on feudal
Right.
Japan. There's bigger cities. There's, Tsushima doesn't really have a lot of big major cities in
Right.
it.
All
So
little villages. Well, it's a
right.
small island too. But what they can do there if they were, this would be a lot to pull off, but it could be like the best game ever. So like if you do like the polish of Origins with all the systems of Odyssey and the size and like scale of Valhalla, and then some of the coolest things about Assassin's Creed 2 and like Brotherhood and all that was your your syndicate, your creed management, because you could recruit
Yeah.
people into it in Assassin's Creed 2. You could like own vendors, stores and shops and upgrade the parts of your city to 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 be the good guys and the good influence of the city. Yeah, they could bring those elements back and do this like weird high level city management
Yeah.
of your providence.
Yeah. I think that would be so. Did you watch Age of Samurai on Netflix? Did you watch any of that
Is that
documentary?
the narrated, like, dramatized
Yeah.
documentary? I
So
started it.
so if you play as that character who went on the
Oh, that dude.
slaughter fest
Yeah.
to bring everybody together in Japan, like, dude, that would be one hell of a game if you went through and you could choose to kill or recruit the
Mhm.
warlords in various areas, and your goal is to unify Japan. Like, dude, I mean, like, it sounds awesome, and it would be set, like I said, in the time frame that most people think of when they think of samurai, with the bigger towns. Guns are starting to become introduced into warfare. There's a lot they could really do. And if I was a betting man, I'm betting that Infinity is either going to start out in Japan or is going to have in Japan introduced at some point. Just
Yeah.
looking, I don't want to call it out just because of an outfit that was in Odyssey that eventually became Valhalla, but the
My
same things
irrefutable
here.
evidence that
Right.
they're going to Japan.
I mean, if you follow their track record, and I think there's even Greek outfits in Origins as well that you can get. So, I mean, it seems like they tease this stuff in their store, the stuff you can buy in their stores. So we'll see, dude. I hope that it is, because we're gonna be living high on the samurai hog here the next coming years, which is sweet because it's an
Well
underutilized video game thing at this point.
well, granted that they made hold on. Was Black Flag right before,
No, Black Flag. No, it was Black Flag,
Syndicate, Unity,
Unity, and
Rogue?
Syndicate. Yeah,
Yeah, but okay. Right. 2014, 2015. So there was 2 years between, so they cranked them out there, the littler games.
yeah,
2013 was Black Flag. There was still a solid 2 years between Syndicate and Origins, so we're at the 2-year mark here now with, Valhalla. They clearly are very receptive to feedback. They have yet to really stumble, because you look at the best Assassin's Creed games ranked, they kind of all dance around. So
yeah.
there's like no one's like stand like, I'll see some of the like the smaller like one offs they did, like there's some pretty bad ones in there.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah,
in
Freedom
terms of like
Cry
the
and that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, but in terms of like the flagship ones, like they're doing fine. Especially because they have favorites in the recent memory, like these past three, and then obviously your staple, like true to the core originals.
right.
So the fact that they're trying to do in like a don't know what to call it, but like a live service
Yeah,
version
that's
of
it.
it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then we have this Baghdad concept coming out for Mirage. Um, I see no reason why they don't have very ambitious plans to
That's what it seems like. Yeah,
advance this entire franchise.
and that's a that I gotta be honest, that to me can be concerning as well, because I do think that Mirage is solving two issues for them. like I said, it's bringing maybe back the classic Assassin's Creed from the earlier games, but it's also giving their fans something to chew on it while they work towards releasing Infinity. But if they try to do too much with this Infinity, I mean,
Yeah.
we see what happened in Odyssey where they try to do just way too much and nothing feels as refined as it did in Origins, right? So that would be my one concern for this grand Infinity that they're planning. If they're going to release like multiple locations at launch, that could be like, I don't know if that's the studio you want to be working on such a massive project, because they're not a lot of these games are buggy. Like, I'll be honest, Origins didn't feel too much bugs in
They cleaned a
Origins.
lot of it up since,
Probably
like,
cleaned up at
you've
this point.
played it, yeah.
But I just played Odyssey, and there's one town that I went into where there was a dog that was on fire, and the entire town was doing the scared thing and walking back. The entire town, like
Oh,
50
weird.
people, all looking at this dog like, ah,
Weird.
ah. And then the dog died, and then they just went back
Oh.
to their pathing. Like nothing happened. It's like, dude, what an odd glitch to run across, but
My immersion is now broke.
definitely. Yeah.
Is now broke.
One of these guys is going to grab a freaking bucket of water and put the damn dog out. Like, they're just all going to be scared of the dog that's on fire.
It's a sign, it's an omen.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, I just that's what so what if like the live service game here that they're plotting is where to keep it focused but also touch everything that they've created. Um what if they release like say a city or like a campaign and you could pick what type of playthrough you wanted. Like there's the stealth character play build that gets its own story and like experience. There's like the RPG like combat, like you get your own story and experience that way, right?
Yeah.
And somehow you pick one, you can play all of them eventually, but like it that way it focuses the gameplay, focuses the mechanics. Like maybe
Yes.
you're going through a cathedral as like the the more RPG traditionalists and you're kind of like just moving through like the floors. But meanwhile, the same mission as the stealth
With
guy,
the
you're like
other
up in the
character. Yeah.
rafters and you're
Yeah.
moving around.
Yeah. I have heard that. I think that the plan is to have multiple locations, like I said, and multiple different characters. So they might
Hmm.
be going down, they might be going down that path. Who knows, dude? Because we'll see if they even remotely mention it at this Ubisoft forward.
Hmm.
It seems like the right time to maybe say something about it, like a tease of some sort. I still think it's probably a couple years away, maybe, but it's September 10th. We'll see. It seems like the right choice to say something here, but this could be really just focused on Mirage and Skull and Bones. We'll see. But that would be really cool, dude. Yeah, I agree. Giving different play styles, and that would help them refine some of those elements as well. Instead of trying to do everything at once, having different teams on different parts of it might help. So you have a team working on the stealth guy. You have a team working on the run and gun style dude. Yeah, it could really work. We'll see. We'll see. You always got to be very weary of Ubisoft because they are very ambitious, and sometimes they fall flat on their face, in my opinion. And I know that they have to be somewhat concerned moving to Japan with Tsushima already being out and being so loved for its gameplay,
Hmm.
because they would really have to nail the samurai feel in order to nail a game in feudal Japan. But it's the time to do it, dude. Like, where else are you gonna go? Like, I know there's plenty of other places, but literally their fans have been begging for this for decades at this point. Just do it. Like, just do it.
Dude. Okay. So Montreal, Ubisoft Montreal has done all of them except Syndicate, which I hear bad things about,
I also do. Yes.
and Odyssey.
Yeah. So they're the team. Yeah, for sure. Are they doing? Who's doing Mirage? I wonder. Hopefully
Dude, I
not.
think that's too new. It's not even on.
It's not even on there yet. Yeah.
It's not even on Wikipedia.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. You can definitely tell the ancestry in Valhalla from Origins, and you can tell that the same team worked on it. Do I think Valhalla comes close to Origins? No, I don't. I think Origins is a vastly superior game in almost every form, but it is working its way back towards that versus what Odyssey was. And I think if you guys have played this game and not liked the gameplay, I would highly recommend doing the no lock on combat. I think that is what really kills Valhalla, especially is locking onto characters. It feels much better if you're unlocked. Same with Origins. It's not going to really help anything in Odyssey if you don't lock on. I think those problems are deeper than the lock on, but I don't know. I just have more fun not locking on. It feels less video
No, yeah,
gamey,
for
less
sure.
more of a grind to get through the enemies.
If I'm in a combat situation, the way I play Origins, and I need to like lock on and fight enemies like that, I'm not playing the way I like to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I take people out with like the Predator bow and stealth. I stealth around, kill as many people as I can.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, if I'm put into like a situation where it's like, okay, how do I kill this boss? If I can't stealth kill him, like he's gonna see me, and then I have to fight him, right?
Yeah.
Or so, and then like to not break the immersion, I don't just run away all the time and like retry again. Like I do, that bugs me. Like when I do that. So
Yeah.
I have rules I play by that like make the game fun for me. So
Yeah. And I think that there are definitely games that require a lock on like that. The Dark Souls franchise absolutely needs a lock on system like that.
yeah,
Sekiro absolutely needs a lock on system like that. You're tracking wild freaking bosses that are moving. You need that. These aren't those kind of games.
yeah, and you have very very precise like controls that you need to
Yes.
like execute, time,
Yeah.
all that stuff. This not so much. Like
Right.
it's
You don't have time.
more
You
free.
have time to manage the camera in these games. You don't in Sekiro. Like if they didn't have that lock on, that game would be freaking impossible. So yeah, it doesn't need to be there. And if you've played these games and you thought they sucked and you were using that lock on, maybe go back and try to use it without the lock on. I think they play
Just
way
forget it's
better.
there.
And it's weird because a lot of people complain about that with Tsushima that it didn't have
Yeah.
a lock on system. And it feels not even what they were going for to have like that. They added lock on into the director's cut, and it feels not very
I
good to
never
play
used
it.
it.
The only time I ever play it or use it is one-on-one because then
Yeah,
it
boss
feels like
fights.
a duel. It
Yep.
feels like the camera gets a little bit more cinematic and it feels cooler.
Right.
That's the only time. It's impossible to play that game with that lock on because it's not as quick and responsive as like a Arkham style combat system, but that's what you're meant to be doing is bouncing between fighting all these people at once. And that's hard to do with a lock on system on.
Yeah, and it's also that's true to like. So yeah, it's very obviously very cinematic game. So like one-on-one duels, like zoom in, lower the camera, like we're fighting.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch your sword. I'm gonna watch my footing.
Yeah.
But then also very cinematically, don't lock on when you're like surrounded by a bunch of guys because you need to block that guy, slice that guy in half, block this guy, sidestep that. Like you need to see what's happening.
It would be like putting a lock on system on the Arkham games or Shadow the Game of not Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings game, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. It'd be like putting a lock on system there. It just doesn't make sense. Now, granted, they weren't going 100% with that for Tsushima.
No.
Like it doesn't have a parry system like those games do, quick and responsive. But I don't know, and it almost seems like the lock-on system changes the enemy AI too. Like the guys you're not locked onto don't attack you. And I think they did it because it would have been you just would have got slaughtered if you had everybody attacking you or trying to lock on to everybody. Like I get
there are times it does feel like that where it's like it creates a connection with like who your
Yeah,
intended target is.
it's really odd. Yeah, it's really odd. Like
I
I
don't know if
said,
that's
it's
because you're moving your character differently. Well,
that might be it. Yeah.
I think there is probably engagement logic to where the enemy that you are trying to fight engages with you first. So
Right.
if you lock on naturally, like the game now knows so it
Right.
prioritizes the strikes.
And yeah, it definitely feels like that. But it is a really cool system to use one-on-one. Like, it does make every one-on-one fight feel like the duels from the game. Like, the camera's similar, it gets very cinematic. So it's cool in that aspect, but in a normal fight with a group of people, same with these games. The Assassin's Creed games play way better locked off, 100% without a
Yeah.
doubt.
You gotta be moving around,
Yeah,
using all the tricks in your bag. If you're stuck in one-on-one combat, you're not probably playing it right.
right. Also,
Um,
yeah, also true. Yeah,
there's way too many tricks.
yeah.
Um,
And I
yeah,
hope they learn their lesson from Odyssey with the sound design like that.
I think they
It's
did. If you
I
said
yeah,
Valhalla's cleaned up, then
yeah, and it is, and it's impressive how much something like sound design can ruin the gameplay. Like, I would have never thought 10 years ago that I would be saying like, yeah, the sound design is like one of the most important things. But after Sekiro, like, the sound design needs to be on point for some of these games to make them feel weighty and fun to play. Like,
yeah,
that's the dagger, I think, in Odyssey, along with the cameras. It's just you can't even hear yourself hitting anything. Like, it's just like, and the characters don't even react to getting hit. That's the other thing. The animations, like in Valhalla, like, they're getting hit. You can tell, like, they're
mhm.
stumbling back. That does not really happen very effectively or very well paced in Odyssey. It feels off. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the more of our senses that are in tune, the more of our senses that are engaged in what's happening, our brain fills in the gaps of like
Right.
things. So, like, obviously, swinging a weapon and like hitting an enemy with no sound or the sound's off, like you probably can see, like, oh yeah, I didn't hit them or there's a gap there. But when the sound hits at the right time, when you
Yeah.
expect it to, it fills in the gap, and you're like, yeah, everything is making sense.
Yes, and that's
Um,
what, like, Tsushima does the sound freaking beautifully, especially on the director's cut where it's coming the deflects are coming out of the controller.
yeah,
Like, it's just so on point, dude. Like, if you feel each cut with that katana when you're moving through a group of enemies. And Valhalla does a good job. There's a lot of like splintering shields and stuff that make it
mhm.
feel like you're actually hitting something with a sword, not just
Someday,
swinging it. Yeah.
someday I'll play that 200-hour game.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. Yeah, like I said, 90. Now, granted, I put 97 hours, I think, into it, maybe 99. But I did
It's
play a
crazy.
decent chunk of both the DLC packs, which are massive as well.
You could
So,
100% Origins with that much time.
oh yeah, by a long shot for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even close to Valhalla. Like, I might be getting close to the main story, but 100%ing, no way.
How is there that much stuff to do? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But here, at the same time, if that was a game set in Japan, I'm like, give me all that. Like, my hope for
Yeah,
Tsushima was it was going to be a Witcher 3 in Japan with like just colossal amount of stuff to do.
and it
And the
wasn't.
other cool thing that they could do with taking Assassin's Creed to Japan is they have that Discovery Tour thing. And I don't know if you've ever played that
Oh, I
any of
love
their
it.
games. It's so cool in Valhalla, man. Uh it's
Uh,
it's basically just they're telling like real stories of real like what it would be like to live in that town. You're not playing as a warrior. There's no fighting. There's no combat.
yeah.
Nothing whatsoever. Like Valhalla, you play as like a
Origins, you just
monk.
kind of run. You just pick your character and you just kind of walk through the cities, and they give you a guided tour.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same concept in Valhalla. There's like spots you can go, and it pulls up like a historian did a documentation on what this was and why they did it, and yada yada yada. But yeah, you play as like a monk, a king, and then like a Viking, but not a fighting Viking. He's like he's like a, I don't even know, like a farmer or something. It's just super cool to go through. It's like a chill experience. That style Discovery Tour in Japan, dude, I would freaking lose hours in that. You know what I mean? If they're just telling like stories of the peasants and stuff, and it would be so cool, man.
I mean, it's a fairly well documented period of time too, because
Right.
it's not recent, but like it's way more recent than 2,000 years ago in Egypt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And there's a lot to draw inspiration film wise, documentary wise. Like we said earlier, that's something I feel or Egypt for whatever reason, even though it's such a cool setting for a movie or a TV show, it's not there. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's
would you rather Sucker Punch make the like quintessential perfect Japan game RPG, or would you rather Ubisoft under the Assassin's Creed name?
yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. If you ask me, yeah, that's a tough question because, like I said, I think that there are a lot of things that Assassin's Creed does better than Ghost of Tsushima does. But you also got to remember that Ghost of Tsushima is a first entry in a new it's the first entry in a new IP. And what it did in the first entry was
Yes.
remarkable
Right.
for what they were going for. But like the weapon variety, the discovery tour, like all the little trinkets around, I think would be really really cool. But I think from a gameplay, story, and like world building, I would want Sucker Punch to do it 100%. Like their games are just, don't get me wrong, Origins is beautiful, but we haven't had really anything beautiful since Origins from Ubisoft. So I think Sucker Punch would do it more justice. They've just kind of handicapped theirself in the time frame that they put themselves in the original, being hundreds and hundreds of years before the warring states version of feudal Japan, which is what we all want to play through. So my pick would definitely probably be Sucker Punch for sure. What do you think?
So I think in terms of like accessibility, it's tough. It is a tough question. I would kind of be fine with Ubisoft doing it, just because like it is a kind of polished out, rolled out like formula they have going on.
Yeah.
Um, in that way, it would be very accessible to like play it and like it be generally good, enjoyable. Like you get the experience. Whereas I feel like with Sucker Punch taking on that scale of a project, right, compared to like what Assassin's Creed could do with it versus like, okay, what would it take for Sucker Punch to do it better?
Yeah.
Um, that's where I think it would be like the coin toss, and they could go like really off the rails with it. Whereas like Ubisoft has a good track record of at least putting out playable, good games, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like Sucker Punch, like they could corner themselves and like flop it, where it's like it just did not fire.
Yeah. I think that, like I said, I think that they really kind of handicapped themselves in the time frame that they picked
Exactly.
because there's really no major war to take on in that time frame besides the second Mongol invasion of Tsushima, which we don't want to play through a second. And I hope they know that. Now, granted, you can tell a really, really good story set in feudal Japan that does not revolve around a major war, but that for my money, they would almost need to break with history at this point, moving into mainland Japan and try to tell a more feudal, civil, inner fighting story versus another Mongol invasion, which is not. But I will say that if it was Assassin's Creed Origins, that style
Right.
versus Sucker Punch, it would be very close for me to pick one or one. It would be very close because I don't think that, even though I said Valhalla is a step in the right direction, it's not even close to Origins. It's not. And I think a lot of people agree with that. So if they go back to Origins style of gameplay, graphics, world building,
Complex it
more
up a little bit with some more systems like
and some
the
yeah, and throw some Odyssey stuff in there, it would be close for me to pick probably Assassin's Creed on that because they do have the benefit. And I'm almost certain that Sucker Punch is going to do variety and weapons in the sequel. I think that's got to be a big thing that they do. But Assassin's Creed is miles ahead of them at this point. But like I said, first entry. If you go back to the first Assassin's Creed, I'm sure there's not a variety of weapons to use in that game. So
no, that game focused on assassinating people and jumping off very high things into haystacks. Like that's
right,
what that game was all about.
Yeah,
which is fine. And it worked.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, it was crazy. Just like, I mean, that's the thing is, I think Ghost just has like a few more iterations before like I would be confident in saying like, yeah, I think they could do it.
Yeah.
I think now that they have like the first one out, the first one off, and then it's like if they can double down and like do a second Ghost or a second game like Ghost, whatever they want to do, so they can break out of that like story. They
Yeah.
put them that. I mean, they seem to make a game just they don't just get away from Jin. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with you because I do like I said with this. I do want to know Sengoku stuff. That era of Japan is what we want, but at the same time, I think they set themselves up really good at the Ghost of Tsushima to tell a wandering samurai story. You know what I mean? Where he's just on the run and he's escaping to mainland Japan and whatever the hell happens. You don't even need a war going on. You could make up wars. Like I said, you can break from history. So I think that they have very, very solid foundation in the first Ghost of Tsushima, and then building on top of that, I think that they are going to come out and nail the second game. But just from a size and amount of stuff to do angle, like nothing really beats The Witcher and these new Assassin's Creed games. There's a shit ton of stuff to do in these games through and through. Like 99 hours they put into. I don't think I've put 99 hours into any game. So, and I didn't even finish it. But yeah, that and then the Discovery Tour, like I really like that stuff. I think it should be used from an education standpoint at some point.
Yeah,
because it's just a cool way to immerse yourself in learning about the time.
And even in Origins, and I've done only like a couple of these, and I need to go, and I have occasionally gone back. I need to go back and I want to do them all, but like you get the scrolls that are like puzzles, and I want to go do all those just because like those are super fun.
Yeah, they are
and
for sure.
The only way you can do those is off of like the scroll. So I don't know if you could probably organically find some of those treasures. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you probably could.
But I feel like it would check more of them off for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of those are like really like buried. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, man. I think it would be a power play for Ubisoft to come out and do Japan because.
Oh yeah.
They know Sucker Punch is working. Like I'd be shocked. I'd be utterly shocked if Ghost of Tsushima was a standalone title. Like there's no way we're not getting a sequel to that game. So for them to come out most likely before Tsushima 2 comes out.
I mean, they planted their flag in Japan and they're like, hey, we're gonna do this. And then it would be a power play for Ubisoft. Be like, you were.
Right. Yeah. But Ubisoft has got to keep that origin style because that's the game out of the trilogy that feels the best, that everything works perfectly.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about them though, is like they do misstep, like they mess up, but it's not like a franchise breaking mess up. Like they're still going to roll out the next one and they're going to do just fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like that's why at the same time, like it's such a great formula that they have done over the past 15 years because they can't really break it, even though they've done things that probably normally would have broken most franchises.
They definitely tried with Odyssey and they definitely tried with Valhalla in the early days of Valhalla. I know a lot of people hated that. Diehard fans hate that game. I don't get that. I'm not a diehard fan. It might have to do with the assassin story.
It's just on the completely opposite end. Like it's it's too big, it's too long, and it's out of the element of like all that stuff.
Yeah. But The Witcher is maybe significantly more massive than Valhalla. So, and that game is hugely popular. So, I don't know. we'll see. I know that I'm curious to see what CD Projekt Red does with The Witcher 4 that they announced, or the new Witcher game. It's not The Witcher 4, but I wonder if they're going to dial it back a little bit and maybe not put 800 side quests in there to do. But that's kind of the charm of that game, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same with Origins. Origins has a vast amount of really good quality side quests. Same with Odyssey, I hear, is the same thing.
If not better than the main story.
Yeah, right.
Revelations, 12.5 hours. Though that was an add-on to 2.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed 1, 15 hours.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah,
right?
That was like a focused.
Brotherhood, 15 hours. 16 hours on Assassin's Creed 3. Unity was 16 and a half, 18 and a half on Syndicate.
Yeah, they're all under 20, those smaller
19
ones.
for Assassin's Creed 2. So 2, all 3 together is like 40 hours.
Right.
Black Flag, 22.5 hours.
Starting to creep up.
29 and a half on Origins. 42 on Odyssey. And 47 on Valhalla. But this is just beeline.
That's beeline in the story. Yeah.
A completionist will set back 113 hours in Valhalla.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And that's if you're probably like know what you're doing and like you're not messing around. Like,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the story. The other thing that I think Origins does really well story wise is Valhalla's storyline just feels very disjointed. Like you're like pledging to these areas, and then you're going and doing this storyline, and then you're coming back and you're like, okay, I did that storyline. Let's do this area next. And then you go to that area. Origins tells a fluid story from start to finish. There's no disjointing. There's no forgetting about the dude that you got to pledge for 60 hours ago in Valhalla and forgetting what that storyline even was about. It doesn't even feel like there's a main story. It's just all bigger side quests basically throughout the world. That's the main story of Valhalla.
They'll refine.
Yeah.
They'll refine.
Yeah, we'll see.
They're going all ends of the spectrum at this point. They can't go. They can't. I don't think they're going to keep moving in that. Obviously, they're not moving in that Valhalla direction. So,
well, I don't know, man. Because if we're talking about multiple different locations, multiple different characters, we might be moving well past that Odyssey and Valhalla area.
But with like focused 20-hour agendas, right? Like keep them segmented.
Maybe,
small.
Yeah. That might.
That's what they tried to do with
it.
Valhalla. They tried to give you like 6 20-hour.
Yeah, that's true. But, it's honestly they could be separate games. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now, they're not like some of the storylines probably take maybe like a couple hours at the most.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, and that might even be like their test for Infinity is putting out Valhalla in this style to see how, if they amplify each of those storylines to 15, 20 hours, are they going to be able to A, handle it, B, tell a story that makes any freaking sense whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think they're going in that direction with Infinity. It's going to be massive. That's the vibe I'm getting. Mirage is their focused 20-hour experience to satisfy the older fans.
They're not afraid to try new stuff and push the envelope. And I think that's why the franchise is still alive, is because they don't just reskin Origins, even though they probably should have. But
they definitely should have. Yeah.
For all three of these, all three of these RPG ones, they should just reskinned Origins.
It's funny because there's a lot of elements in there that are reskinned, even in Valhalla, that are straight rips from Origins. But as a whole, like you can't call Odyssey a reskin of Origins. It's just not. It's a lie.
Yeah, it's a lie.
It really is.
Cool. Well, I think we've beat this horse to death.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Assassin's Creed Origins. We like that game. It is my favorite of the 3 RPGs for sure.
Yeah, mine too.
And I'm glad that it's gaining popularity with time here.
It is.
Especially as they're deviating and messing up a little bit, and it's just like people look back and like Origins was very nice. It was very
Yeah, it's
playable,
funny.
very very polished game.
It's funny
Actually,
how that works because I think it was pretty controversial when it came out because of that. This was the major switch to the open world RPG, the first one.
the
And
world's
now,
so big, but still only 30 hours. Don't
right.
sweat it.
And now that we have Odyssey, which is absurdly large, and Valhalla, which is also absurdly large, people are like, man, Origins wasn't so bad. This is actually maybe one of the better games.
Yep. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and watching. I think we have to, it'll just be Chad and I next week as well. We'll pick out a fun topic. I think we have some ideas, but we haven't settled on an exact topic. We just freehand things when Mike's not around. When he's not here driving the
throat clearing train.
Yeah, cracking the whip. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. This is a very fun conversation. I'm glad I could finally talk to somebody about Assassin's Creed
you've been waiting
Origins.
forever. Yeah.
Mike wouldn't play it. Chad randomly just started playing it. It was like, dude, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm validated now. Until next time, which will be Monday because everyone's going to tune in and listen to me and Chad break down episode 3 of House of the Dragon. Which, speaking of things that seem to be getting better with time, the premiere of episode 2 had more viewers ever so slightly than the premiere of episode 1.
Oh, did it really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's rare that happens.
Yeah,
usually you get a big fall off from the first episode or the second one.
No,
I'm curious to see how much Lord of the Rings affects.
And I feel like I should go just watch that.
Is that out?
I think it came out today.
Oh, did it come out today? Oh yeah, you might be right.
Hey, holy crap! I didn't even see these come in. We have some Answer the Boys though.
Oh yeah.
Twisted Viking, he needs to play these at some point. I definitely encouraged him to go play them. And then Jared from Play Along Podcast, he says, that's funny. I just started Origins and I'm loving what I've played so far. The last AC game I played was Black Flag. So there are some gaps in the franchise I have wanted to check out, but Origins specifically. I know games going forward, I have heard, move further away from the stealth mechanics and more towards action RPG, but Origins so far feels like a good mix of both.
Yep.
Favorite game has to be Brotherhood, and Ezio, my man, has to be one of the best protagonists.
Everybody's pick, yep.
Yep. And Joe Cross, he hasn't played since Black Flag. Really excited for Skull and Bones. Became too repetitive for me. This is true. That's what was wrong with Assassin's Creed 3. It was too repetitive for me.
Yeah. That's what you should definitely check out Origins, Joe. I think you would really like this game. It does not get repetitive even in the slightest bit.
Just too good.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. And with that, we are officially out. Thanks for those Answer the Boys posts, and see you Monday.
So I picked up Elden Ring again from the library, and they put stickers on their discs, okay? Like around the circle in the middle. And it really irritates me, and I literally took it off last time before I put it in the PlayStation. And when I went back, I was like, took it up to the desk. You have to get it up at the desk. I was like, hey, can you see if one of these discs, because there was 2 of them, doesn't have a sticker on it? And you would have thought I asked this chick some complicated rocket science equation because she looked like the most utterly shocked I've ever seen, and she never even responded to me. Just went and got the game and ignored me completely.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, okay, well, I guess I'd just take it off again. I don't feel comfortable putting it in the
No,
PC.
just the disc goes into the very expensive machine.
Right. And I don't want
Because
that
I don't.
sticker coming off and getting jammed in there. Now, granted, never mind.